To boycott clothing giant H&M after it advertised a black child in a hoodie with the words "coolest monkey in the jungle." In the same campaign, a white child was also shown, but in inoffensive clothing. Now, H&M has now taken down the image and publicly apologised as well. That hasn't stopped a massive row, though, with the brand labelled as racist.
Marketing fail. H&M puts a black child in a hoodie that reads, "I'm the coolest monkey in the jungle," and the white child is the survival expert. And now Fox are pretending like they don't know the black children have long been racially characterized as monkeys.
The H&M is just irony. I highly doubt they were like, let's put the monkey hoodie on the baby, like y'all making it seem.
There's a white supremacist who works for H&M who thought it was funny to make a black boy model a hoodie that said "coolest monkey in the jungle."
H&M is not an American company. Non-native brands do not have to be familiar with USA's or other countries' historical conflicts. No one has to do background research for advertising a simple hoodie.
Y'all can feel how y'all feel about the H&M hoodie situation. I thought the hoodie was cute. Sue me.
They've got a little black boy in a monkey hoodie. Of course it's offensive, but it's so obvious. I'm hysterical over the lack of awareness by H&M.
Well, joining us live now, Luke Gittos from Spiked magazine and Remy Feder of Models of Diversity, an advocate for more variety in fashion. Thanks for joining us today on the programme. Great to have you both on today. If I can go to you first, perhaps, Luke. I mean, this has been a controversial issue. It's got a very split reaction online, on social media. Many accuse the ad of having racist undertones. That's very much understandable. Absolutely, other people see absolutely nothing wrong with it. They're saying it's a bit of a storm in the teacup. I mean, where do you stand on this?
Well, I think it's a really sad day. I think what has happened is the word monkey has been used because this boy is a child, and the word monkey is used to describe children of all races because they're cheeky and mischievous, and you can see this across children's clothes for children of all races, and this was part of a jungle-themed clothing line. The idea that this was somehow racially malevolent, I think, is utterly ludicrous, and I think that really this is a symptom of what Twitter does to people. I think really what it does is it encourages people to see the absolute worst in people's motivations, and so I think we do have real problems with race, class, gender in this society, but what we need is a sense of racial solidarity, and what Twitter does is it makes racial solidarity completely impossible by encouraging everyone to believe the worst in everyone else. And what I think it does is it creates social division, it fosters division, it encourages people to see people as different rather than the same, and if we continue on that mindset, we are going to fail to formulate a common response to those problems around race and gender and everything else that we experience in society. So I think we need to get this discussion off Twitter as soon as possible. It's a recipe for social dissolution, for alienation. You know, we're going to end up in a situation where white teachers will be worried about teaching black children in case they say the wrong thing. White people will be worried about working with black people in case they say the wrong thing. And this is nothing to do with the people themselves. This is a small community of people online which encourages people to think the worst in others, and that makes any kind of solidarity impossible.
Remy, I mean, if I can go to you, I mean, as Luke mentioned there, obviously there are problems within society of racism, of discrimination. You've got experience of the fashion industry, the wider fashion industry. Is that a problem that is there, this discrimination and racism? And I mean, is this symbolic of it? Or, as Luke said, is this being made too much of a big deal out of?
There's no doubt that there's an issue there. It's not something that is something that's just as a whim. You know, it's definitely there. There's been issues with people of colour becoming into the fashion industry in the first place and even being represented fairly, and even the connotation of beauty for people of colour, for a start. And that's just the first issue. But the whole issue is with this advertising campaign. It's an advertising campaign that it's international. It's an international campaign, and it's so obvious that if you're going to use a connotation like monkey, whether a child is a monkey, and you're going to choose a black child for the campaign and a white child as a survivor of the jungle, that it's not going to have connotations. It's ridiculous to think it's not going to have any connotations whatsoever. I'm sorry, but I don't know how you can compare that. You know, how you can say that's not true.
I don't think this has that connotation for the vast majority of people. The vast majority of people think this is a perfectly innocent campaign involving children of all races involved in the jungle. And I think it's really sad when adults' preconceptions about racism and race get read into childhood interactions. I think that is potentially extremely corrosive. If this kind of thinking gets into our school environment, for example, what are we going to end up saying? That black children can't be involved in games that might involve jungle animals?
There, please?
Oh, please do, yeah.
No, I disagree there, because I do think that, yeah, children are going to get involved in games that involve jungle animals, but if you're going to specifically choose a campaign where the black child is chosen as the monkey and the white child is chosen as the jungle survivor in a climate of racial tension, you know it's going to have connotations, especially for their parents. When I was growing up, as 11 years old, this is an historical issue, and I don't think it's just about parents. It's something that's going to be inherent in these children subconsciously if you're going to continue this. And I don't think it's about, I'm looking at this objectively, to be honest. Personally, in my opinion, I think this is actually an issue to do with promoting and making sure that you're going to make the brand more successful. If I'm perfectly honest, that's what I think this is all about. I don't think it's necessarily a race issue.
If I can just jump in, Remy, I mean, the hashtag boycott H&M has been trending on Twitter.
Yeah.
They have actually obviously apologised. They've taken down the advert since then. Are you happy with their apology? Do you think they've done enough to put an end to the matter, or would you back a boycott of H&M as a result of this?
To be perfectly honest, I've always shopped in H&M. I was a big fan of H&M. I'm so disappointed by this campaign. I've seen what H&M do. They always use a mix of models, but this is really it's ill-timed to say the least. Is what this campaign is. It's really badly thought out by a board of white directors, because even if there's that opinion that it's just like badly thought and it might have been parents that are negatively thinking about this, you cannot deny the connotations that it held.
Yeah.
As I said, I don't know if I mentioned, but I was bullied by a whole class, called a monkey by a whole class when I was going into a class, and it really had an effect. And if that's going to have an effect on me, that's going to have an effect on generations to come, because you're the parent of that child. So you can't get away from that.
Of course, Remy, yeah, go ahead, Luke.
The strongest way we can deal with this is by moving children beyond race. That should be the goal for everyone in society, is making children not think about their race. That's the way we should be proceeding. But what this thinking does is that it reads into people's motivations a racist and malign motivation. And the previous speaker just did exactly that. They said, well, there's a whiteboard of people, this must be a racist thing, this must be racial. Why can't it simply be that this is a child who is black or white? Who cares? It doesn't matter. The point is that the word monkey is being used to describe a child and the childhood experience. And I think the more that we allow the kind of toxic debate that... Hold on a second, I'll let you... Hold on. The more you allow that kind of toxic level of debate that happens on Twitter to permeate our interactions in the real world, the more we become distant from each other, the more we sow racial difference, and the more any genuine racial solidarity becomes impossible, because people no longer trust each other. People read into people's motivations the worst possible malign thinking, and I think it's absolutely toxic. And although this H&M example is a relatively trivial one, I think most people in the country recognise why the term monkey was used and the context that it was used. The more that we encourage the kind of thinking that we see on Twitter, the more difficult it's going to be to formulate a common response to the real problems that we face.
If I can just jump in, and then Remy, perhaps I'll ask you this. I mean, is this a question really? You mentioned, a whiteboard of directors there, and racism, perhaps that does exist in industry, but is this perhaps more, a thoughtless choice? I mean, everybody can see the connotations here. Everybody can see, that this was perhaps a very badly, poorly thought out choice. But is that all it is, do you think? If this had been the other way around, a white child wearing that top and a black child wearing the other orange jungle survivor top, would there have been such an outcry over this?
No, it's the simple answer. That's the whole issue here. Advertising campaigns are really well thought out, And if it was just about play, I think it's fantastic, and that's what I like about H&M, and in fact that's what I like about Benetton as well, because they used to use controversial campaigns, but they never crossed the line of it being overtly appearing to be racist or using any sort of connotations. They sort of made a debate and opened up a debate, which is a completely different thing altogether. I really believe in unity, absolutely. I just think you really have to really think about how you're going to promote these things and how you're going to bring that about. And just another thing I'm going to say, I don't know about the Twitter boycott campaign. I haven't looked into that at the moment. But what I would say is that bringing this as a debate is a really important thing to do, actually. You might think it might bring tension, and it does bring arguments, but at the same time, you know, I've got a lot of support for coming onto this show and talking about it, because it's bringing unity from black people and white people to sort of say, you know, we're worried about how a child will be perceived,
Sure.
and that's the issue here.
Luke, if I can get back to you, I mean, you know, one can see both sides of the argument here, can't they? The fact that there are racial connotations, the fact that many people do see this as an overreaction, but I mean, surely you can see that, bearing in mind the historical connotations, bearing in mind, you know, towards black people of the word monkey, I mean, really, perhaps a little more common sense here, at least, would have been a good idea by H&M.
I think the clear distinction is between adults and children. I think that when the word monkey is applied to a child, it doesn't have any racist connotation, no matter how you read it. And I think imagining that it does is very, very dangerous. So I don't think there's any room for any more racial sensitivity on behalf of H&M, because I think it's perverse to see this advert as having any kind of racial connotation. And I think the more we read a history, which obviously these children have nothing to do with, into the interactions between children, the more we imbue them, young people, with our racial insecurities. And I think that's the most harmful aspect of this. The more we do it, the less likely we are to have a generation who genuinely do move beyond race. The more likely it is that we actually sow those kind of racial segregations, the more chance there is that we remain so racially sensitive, so aware of each other's differences. Okay. And I think that's the real problem with this.
We are running out of time, Remy. If I can just go to you, the quick, you know, 30-second summary. What can H&M do, or could H&M have done better, you know, to mitigate what's been a very sensitive issue here?
Obviously, first of all, an apology, but an explanation as to why they did it and what they think would be, you know, their intentions for it, I think is very important. And I just think that they need to recognise how it affected people of colour. They need to recognise how it affected people of colour and how it could potentially affect children, because they don't live in a bubble. They are aware of what's happening in the world, like football teams and bananas being thrown at footballers and things. They're aware of this. We don't live separately from history. History is part of your life. So I think I still, you know, I still think H&M.
Yeah, we are running out of time, guys. I'm afraid that's all we do have for... Yeah, go on, Luke, just very quickly.
I think it's the idea that you would elide throwing a monkey at a black football player with a child wearing a jumper with the word monkey shows just how crazy this discussion is. The two things are very, very different. One is very clearly racist, the other has no racist content whatsoever.
Okay, that's all we have time for today, guys. Luke Gittos from Spike magazine and Models of Diversity's Remy Feder. Great to have you to have this debate. As Remy said very right, we do discuss this controversially.